This is Vancouver. I've lived here my entire life, and I can say it's a pretty nice place, but it's also really expensive. Like, really expensive. Now, why is that? Well, today I'm going to answer that question. Or at least try to. Now, before we get into the video, I just wanted to say thank you to Uytae for kindly agreeing to an interview. I got to ask him a ton of questions about the housing crisis and kind of get his perspective on the problem. His channel will be linked below, so I highly recommend you check it out. He makes some amazing content. Let's get into it.
Listen, I mean, I'm going to just warn you beforehand, like the housing crisis, it's just such a, I'm going to say, a hotbed. I don't think anybody disagrees with the idea that housing is too expensive. And the fact that housing has gotten proportionally much more expensive over the years. I heard a fun fact the other day, not so fun fact. Back in the 50s or 60s, houses were cheaper than automobiles. To me, that was the wildest thing, right? Like just how disproportionately the housing market has outpaced pretty much any other sort of good in our life. I think maybe the only other comparable one was like maybe the cost of university. But I always imagined as a kid, like my parents are immigrants, they're not going to own a house, but I might be able to own property one day. I might be able to make it in this market somewhere in Vancouver. I did want to leave Langley, I'll be honest with you. But I think it was kind of around like when I was getting closer to graduation. This is like 2010s, around the Olympics. I think the Olympics brought a lot more international attention to the city, a lot more speculation within Vancouver. Like everyone's sort of consciousness about the city and where it was on the world stage sort of shifted a bit, and property prices really followed that. So I think we've established, like, I mean, of course, like housing is just by any stretch of the imagination beyond reach for the average working individual. Even like traditionally high-paying jobs like doctors, the benchmark is your mortgage payment 30% or less of your income. And their founding was like a doctor's income would not be able to, support a mortgage payment at 30% or less of their income.
We're now at the point where there's a significant portion of the population that can just never buy a house in Vancouver without marrying Jeff Bezos or winning the lottery.
Is he still single? Is he? Bill Gates is single now, I believe.
Oh yeah.
But of course, like, I mean, maybe the thread at the root of all this is like it's a freaking gamble. It's not steady. I think to the average person, it starts to feel like we're really like gambling with what feels like essential parts of life, right? With your housing. What I'm thinking in my head is like, okay, if we price housing as, let's say a quote unquote human right, or like a commodity that is accessible to everyone, what value is that house? To me, that house is not $1.5 million. That is like a, probably like a $400,000 or $500,000 house. So for me personally, I'm like, any house that costs more than that is likely a house that has gone up in price due to speculation, due to people wanting to make money on that house. And to me, that's the behavior I think we should be taxing, right? There's a good chunk of us that want housing to be affordable. We want prices to be like lower and more reasonable. And there's a bunch of people that are very okay and want housing prices to get higher and higher because it is, you're adding to your wealth. I think certainly foreign investors play a small but possibly not insignificant role. But also there's a ton of local speculation. Like think about like housing as Bitcoin. The way people invest in Bitcoin, they want to make a quick buck. They're seeing the prices go higher and higher, so like people will invest in it. Now, what if Bitcoin was like an actual necessity, like your house or food? That's kind of what's happening here, I think. Like the other side of this, you can't talk about the housing crisis without talking about supply and demand, right?
Yes.
Like, are we building enough housing is definitely part of the question, right? I think kind of what a lot of people see as the way to resolve the housing crisis is basically try as best as possible to rein in how much people see housing as an investment, how quickly it grows. We don't want it to go down in price. And that's like a pretty hard reality check for a lot of people. But like, you know, if housing prices go way down, it's going to be pandemonium. Like people will freak, like 60% of Canadians are homeowners. Like people will lose money. They're not going to be happy about it. I would say the general like consensus is it's like right now we've got our foot on the accelerator at like full blast. Like the car is just freaking speeding so far. We're going to crash into things. It's going to be shitty. What we're trying to do is like, how do you take your foot off so that it's like, it's moving forwards, right? Prices are still like growing little by little every year. It's like, it's controlled, right? And so how do you get there? Like in terms of solutions, that's where I think everyone has divided opinions. I think what's more popular is like, how do we kind of just slow the growth in housing so that wages and other things can catch up to it, maybe even surpass it, so that housing is not seen as this like Bitcoin level investment, but it's seen as just like a very stable, almost like a savings account kind of place to put your money into. If you want to be able to buy property in Vancouver today, there are only 3 ways to do it. The first way is you inherit the property.
Yep.
The second way is your parents help you with your down payment because they've built up some accumulated wealth or something like that. And the third way is to just get stupid rich by, I don't know, like investing in Bitcoin. Or the one thing I know for sure completely is that there is no one right silver bullet solution to it. It sounds incredibly cliche, but I can't emphasize it enough. Like it's just something that will just take a very concerted effort on all ends to resolve it, if we even want to resolve it.
To anyone who's watching this, subscribe to About Here Uytae's channel. You know, it's pretty cool. No,
say subscribe to Tatum. Subscribe to Tatum, up and coming YouTuber.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I was gonna say the pleasure is all mine. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, before I end the video, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for watching, and again, it was a pleasure to be able to talk to Uytae about the housing crisis. It was a really cool conversation. Now, if you do want to see the full conversation, it was actually about an hour, so I will post that on SoundCloud and link it down below if you want to hear that. Almost like a mini podcast. But yeah, if you find this interesting, please check out the podcast. I'll link it below. And other than that, have a great day. See you guys next time.